And welcome to the Armchair Football. I think we're going to call it Football League, or I don't know if we decided on a name, but I'll probably butcher it. We've got Josh and Squibb here to defend their honor after they were brutally butchered in some of the recent podcasts, and they want to come on. So
I think you guys are just Team Josh, right? Like right now, you're just Team Josh. Do you plan on changing that?
We have a team name.
We do have a team name. We're waiting for something very specific to happen. So we'll have to come up with a temporary team name because it's not happening right away. I'm not convinced.
Somebody becoming a starter, perhaps? Or
I have no idea.
I
gotta pull up these guys' team. I don't even have it up just to have it up.
I was trying. I mentioned on the pod. Sorry, Tony. I mentioned on the baseball pod this morning. I was like, I'm going to have Josh and Squibb on of the AFL. I could not think of their team name, so I had to go look. I'm like, it's like just Team Josh.
Yeah.
I like to do that because I feel like during the draft, it's just much easier for people to know who's up. We may have taken a little bit longer than some people when it came to drafting. I think sometimes because we had two people, and sometimes because we spent a lot of effort trying to make trades. But I think it's helpful. I think the number of people that were adding us just proves that's what I'm going to go with. Not that we were taking a while. That it was very obvious who was drafting because it was my team name. It was just Team Josh.
Right.
I will say it's better than, and I can give Vince crap because I've known Vince for years. Vince was my team. So your team at least has a little more creativity than my team. And since Squibb took a drink, I wanted to let you know I bought some Boston Lager for these Massachusetts guys. I've got a few other Sam Adams specials coming later because I got the pack over here. But Squibb, what are you drinking?
Just a good old Coors Light. Mountain
Colorado, let's go.
Tap the Rockies. Yeah.
I'd like to say I'm drinking water, so gotta stay hydrated.
And I think you're drinking Pierre, right, Alan? Oh, LaCroix.
Key lime LaCroix. That's still French, fake French, but yeah. Josh and I being.
So I guess we'll start with Squibb since his head's above yours, Josh. Sorry. Let's get to know you for a little bit. What's your life story a little bit? Like, tell us how you got involved in fantasy and how you and Josh got to know each other.
Yeah. So, I've loved football since a very young age. One story that I kind of always like to share is I was in fourth grade and we were doing a "What do you want to be when you grow older?" project, as third, fourth graders do. And there were a lot of doctors, police officers, firefighters, etc. All the common ones that a lot of 8-year-olds want to be when they grow up, but not me. For me, my response back then was I wanted to be an NFL draft scout. Basically, a better Mel Kiper, or just watching football players all day and figure out who's good and who's not. That was my dream when I was 8. That's obviously not how.
That's very specific too. That's not like be a football player.
Right. Yeah. No, it was specifically like, I knew the limit of my talents back then even, but yeah. So I've always been super into football, doing fantasy for years. Obviously Josh and I are a little bit on the younger side of the league, but so I have grown up always in the Boston area. I went to Bentley University, which is a small business-focused school right outside of Boston, which is where I met Josh. He lived right across the hall from me. Our freshman year, we lived together the rest of our years at school. And this summer, we've both been in each other's weddings, so that's pretty exciting too. I'm glad that he's.
Congratulations to you as well, then.
Thank you. Glad that Daddy's back out here in Massachusetts. Was rooting for that all along, albeit selfishly. But yeah, as for my job, I'm an actuary, which Not sure if you guys are aware of, but it's kind of like data analytics, but it's even more math. So I guess that's kind of how
Josh brought in a ringer for his football team, is what it sounds
like. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, so it's basically like a lot of insurance statistics, probability, a lot of modeling, data analysis, things like that. It's basically like data analytics if you want to take an extra like 10 exams that you have to study hundreds of hours for each one of them. That's kind of the difference.
This is even better for you to have your like riposte at Sam then, because Sam was using this data model of his own creation, and now we have an actual counter to that. This should be good.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't prepare a model, but
I actually had a guy that I was working with that I don't know if you know my background, Squibb. I deal in I'm a casino table games dealer, so a lot of
numbers,
not to your level, but like mental math and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
There was a guy who I dealt with who moved out to Blackhawk, Colorado, and he deals out there now, and he was taking his actuary exams, and he liked the casino world because of all the numbers and stuff like that.
Lots of numbers in that world. That's for sure. Yes.
Is there anything else you want to add besides that, just for personal experience, anything like that? Like how many years you played fantasy football?
Probably since I was like 10.
Okay.
But even like there's stories of like when I was like 5 years old and like I was counting the number of passes that different players caught. So I guess even back then I was kind of playing PPR fantasy in my head, even if I didn't know it.
So just to recap, my co-manager here I brought into this league not only is a professional data analyst, modeler, projector, pricer, he also has been playing fantasy sports for his entire life.
No pressure.
Oh, man.
No big deal. Yeah, no pressure. No big deal.
The team with 2 data analysts.
Yeah, that's
so. Before we switch over, I'm doing Oktoberfest now. This is my first one for the season since we just got. I don't know if you guys get them all.
It feels early for that.
But it's really August. Does. Yeah,
it's August, man. It's still 95 today.
Well, hold on. Do you guys realize where I live? I'm like 2 weeks away from winter.
A barren wasteland of North Dakota.
In North Dakota, we're 2 weeks away from winter. So sorry, anything you were saying, like, so he's the data analyst of the team. So are you the numbers guy and you're the people?
We both are. He's
both the numbers
data analyst. He started out actually as an actuary major, but then decided he didn't want to spend several years taking many exams. It's basically like, if you've heard of like the CPA exam process, it's like that, but on steroids. And comparable work to like kind of getting your PhD. So I have several of them knocked down, but I still have quite a few to go. So that'll be the next.
Yeah, I stopped at exam too. I was like, yeah, this is not fun.
So who's the people person? You got the numbers guy. Which one's
me? More so than him, but neither.
Okay.
It was a business school, Tony, not a party school. It was a business school.
We both took a lot of the same classes, so it was funny always being in similar classes and then also like living together. We're both very, very competitive people, so it created some very interesting dynamics.
What was like the spark from like you guys both realizing that you were like both into fantasy, or were you like just kind of like sometimes at work I'll bring up a fantasy relevant thing, and if somebody pays attention they do or they don't. Was it like something like that in a class or something, or?
No, I mean,
just you see an open notebook with stats in it,
hanging out on the floor, talking about sports. I mean, we both
it comes up. I mean, obviously,
Josh is baseball, then football. I'm football, and then it kind of fluctuates with my second favorite sport. But yeah,
that kind of answered a question I was. That answered the question I was going to have. I was like, so are you a baseball guy? Like, seeing like numbers to me is baseball. But that's I'll stop it. This is a football pod. Sorry. So
all the Boston teams I root for have for my whole life. Basketball is my distant fourth. Whether it's hockey or baseball, that's 1 or 2 and 3. They kind of fluctuate a little bit based on the season and how the team's doing. So a month ago, baseball would have been my number 2, but right now hockey might be my number 2 with how the Red Sox are doing lately.
So I don't want to not talk baseball. I just don't want to talk a bunch of ABL while the poor guy is sitting here not in the ABL. You know, I didn't want to rub it in.
Yeah,
I'm going to ask. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask as much.
Gotcha. I was going to ask a transition question. Okay, so I'm going to ask this to both of you, and I want you to answer shortly, Squibb, and then we'll move to Josh. One of my favorite movies growing up, because I'm a little older, Fever Pitch, about the Red Sox and yada yada yada. Do you approve of that movie, Squibb?
I haven't seen that movie in at least 10 years, so I'm probably not qualified to answer that.
Fair enough. Now we'll move into you, Josh.
Is that the movie with Jimmy Fallon?
Yes.
Okay. I actually haven't seen it. Is he even a Red Sox fan? I don't know. I get a little offended when non-Red Sox fans play Red Sox fans.
Is Alan? Do you know? Squibb? Do you know? Is he a Red Sox fan?
I've never seen it. Yeah, I know like Affleck and Damon are supposedly Red Sox fans.
They're Boston guys.
Captain America.
Yeah. And I know like John Hamm is a Cardinal fan. I know he's a celebrity that's a well-known baseball guy. Larry David's is he a Mets guy? I think he's a Mets guy. Jerry Seinfeld's a Mets guy. But yeah, I have no idea.
The Cubs had a few come out of the woodwork.
Bill Murray and the other celebrity Cubs people. Bill Murray actually loves the Cubs, though. Some of them just sing the fucking thing to get their face on the TV, But Bill Murray's an actual Cubs fan.
We're diverging to baseball. Anyways, all right, now to Josh. Sorry. Let's get to know you, bud. It sounds like Squibb kind of laid the groundwork with how you guys met and stuff like that. Tell us your background in fantasy. It sounds like you claim to be on a better podcast than this. I don't know how that's possible, but
that was me that said that.
Yeah, I did not claim that. I told you, I've been on those podcasts trying to get your attention so that I could finally be invited here.
So go ahead, continue on. Let's get to know you and stuff like that.
Yeah, so Squibb kind of explained how we met. I come from Colorado, but I'm also a fan of all those Massachusetts teams. It's kind of a requirement when you're going to go to school in Boston. You kind of have to like those teams. Otherwise, you're just going to get crap all the time, especially when all of them are pretty much good at the same time. There was one year there where we thought they might all 4 win. Didn't quite happen, but Red Sox Patriots checked the box. So, but anyway, I got into fantasy football pretty early on. I remember the first time someone introduced it to me, I thought I was literally going to be able to coach the players and get to like actually meet them. And somehow I was like, I can't believe this is a thing. And how did we land this opportunity? So I was greatly disappointed.
How is it us? How are we so lucky? You're like that little kid that actually thought he was going to get a Pokemon when he turned 10 years old, and he was like super crushed when he learned that he wasn't.
Exactly. And I think my first year was Adrian Peterson's rookie season. So I don't remember what year that is off the top of my head. 2007. There you go.
I think that was 30 years ago.
But I drafted him off a hot tip from my father. He had an incredible season, obviously, and I got hooked on fantasy football. But I was always a baseball fan first, but it wasn't until high school when I was on my high school baseball team that I actually had a group of people willing to play fantasy baseball. So that was my first introduction to that, and I think it's the best fantasy form by far. I've tried all the others. I love baseball. So baseball is kind of how I've really gotten obsessed with fantasy to a point where I'm in a league such as the ABL. But yeah, football has kind of always been a secondary thing. You kind of have to play it just for the social reasons. When it comes to sports, seems like everyone does fantasy football.
That's true.
So
that's a good point.
And it's amazing because you say that like you will hear, and I think the Cardinals are one of them too. that have like clubhouse fantasy football. I mean, I bet all the baseball teams do, but I've heard stories about the baseball teams that play fantasy football.
I was just going to add, the Boston Red Sox are actually undefeated since their fantasy football draft this year, 1-0. So fantasy football is kind of magical.
Yeah,
it is. It is.
Yeah, that's interesting that you mentioned, like, you remembered AP's like rookie year being your first year. I was trying to think back to like the first time I played fantasy, and for football, I had played baseball a lot earlier as well, but for football, it was like my freshman year of high school, and I think that was like the first really big year of Edgerrin James, Marvin Harrison, and Peyton Manning, like that super stack combo. So yeah, I don't know when that would have been, but those are like the guys.
2000.
Yeah, and LT came along and dominated after. Like that's when I really remember kind of getting into football. Those are like Randy Moss and those guys. So little bit of a gap, just probably simply because of age, but seems like we got into it at about the same time.
So I'm gonna throughout this just kind of throw out the questions and defer to you guys. Josh, I believe there might be an announcement about some nom 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 pizza you would like to would you like to take the lead with this?
Yeah, so me and one over here, I would like an explanation for why we're going by one, actually, before I get into this. What's up with this?
That's always been his thing. I don't get it either. He's always.
It's stuck with me, so I got to keep it now. So sorry, go ahead.
For me and one, otherwise known as Tony, we made a pizza bet. We both competitive people, both believe in our own ability. So what we're actually going to put on the line here is our football team. Squibb was not involved nor consulted in the making of this bet, so I told him I'd split the pizza with him, but I'll put none of the cost on him because I didn't even look at Tony's team when I made this bet, to be honest. But it's basically whoever's team finishes higher in the playoffs, because I need the help. Currently, Squibb and I are not sporting a second starting quarterback. We have many who could get there, or maybe two is what I mean by many. But we will be there, and come playoff time, we're going to be a force to be reckoned with. And when our team finishes above ones, it's going to be pizza time.
Can I say, since you've not looked at one's roster, we have three. That's three starting NFL quarterbacks on our roster.
Yeah, but are you able to play all three?
No,
I'm not.
Whoops.
I just want to let you know. I have three. That's
let's see. Where are you?
Let's give you guys.
Burrow.
Sorry, I didn't. Is there anything? I think one of you guys had a story. I'm sorry. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to ask, like, if they do beat you, are you buying a pizza for Squibb and Josh?
I'll even say right now, I'll buy it for both of them. Both of them with tip. I'm fine.
I wanted to get him on the hook. There it is. Like, now you can't.
Yeah, that's fine.
Now,
he's very very confident in Jared Goff.
No.
Whoa!
I was like
NFL caliber QBs here.
Oh.
Jared Goff, is that one of the three?
In your other two, you have three total knees between them.
It's Herbert, Burrow, and Goff. It is.
Okay.
Yeah, one of them is Goff, but yeah, it's Herbert and Burrow. Yeah,
three
Burrow,
quarterbacks, three knees. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh geez. Anyways, hey, I think one of the main reasons you guys wanted to come on here was, like I said, you got blasted a little. Squibb, we'll go back to you. The floor is yours. Defend your team.
I think it's more so. I think Josh said he has some story to share.
Oh, sorry, I forgot about that. Yeah, my bad. Sorry, the story. Yes.
Maybe not a story, but this all started when I get back from my honeymoon. I'm in a pleasant mood, and I open up the football Discord, want to see what's going on, if there's any big news. And what do I see is power rankings from Sam, where not only is my team, our team, but it is called my team right now. So My team is last. It is like dead last, like 30 points from whatever grading system he's using between us and second to last. And I just want to say here, first off, Sam, I know you can take it, so I'm about to be the villain in the league a little bit here. So here's the first thing.
We're doing a good cop, bad cop routine with our team.
Let's take you back to the third pick of the draft. We're on the clock. We're taking a while. Kind of odd to take so long at the beginning of a draft. What's going on? Well, behind the scenes, we are discussing a trade with Sam. The trade goes basically, Sam, what are you willing to give us so that you can draft Christian McCaffrey? We go back and forth. It takes honestly all night. Nothing comes of it. So we didn't actually want McCaffrey. We wanted Kyler Murray. So we took Murray. And then shockingly, McCaffrey also doesn't go with pick 4, falls to Sam. Sam then, off of our tip, puts in the group chat, I hear that MCM is still available. So, yes, we might say that Sam had the best value pick in the first round. As I agree with that. You guys said it on your podcast a couple weeks back. But he straight up called him MCM, and I'm saying, why did we even award him with Christian McCaffrey? We didn't even know who he was. The only reason he's heard of him is because of this trade that we were trying to have.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about our one quarterback. I would take our one quarterback over every quarterback on his entire roster combined. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger, like, come on.
But we're gonna go off a power ranking system of someone who doesn't know who Christian McCaffrey is. Just throwing that out there, Sam. I'm gonna let you. I know you can take it. That's why I'm just throwing it out there. But also,
Sam can take it.
The trade talks with Sam did not end there. We tried trading him at multiple occasions. Obviously, no trade was ever made during this draft, but we tried multiple times. And the excuse that we continually got from Sam is that he believed our team was going to be good enough that by the point it got to our pick in the rookie draft, it would have no value. And so, again, why are we last then, Sam?
We have the receipts.
Oh, God. I love this.
I don't think it's a coincidence that a big part of Sam's model was taking like depth into consideration because he's extremely deep at like running back, a big position. So like, and I don't think he's sitting at the top. I don't recall exactly what it was, but I know he's not sitting at like the top. He's either at the bottom of a tier or the top of the second tier, something like that. He's ahead of us, he's ahead of all.
He's certainly not in the basement tier with just us.
Right, but yeah, I mean, you have to look at this being a super flex league, and Sam's quarterbacks being, Wentz did show up in camp the other day, or whatever. Like he is doing stuff, right? Like he's playing, but
he's still Carson Wentz.
It's Wentz and Roethlisberger, yeah, and then you get down to
next year, and then he has 3 Indianapolis quarterbacks.
So
he handcuffed the handcuff.
Starters next year.
Yeah. So, and even for this year,
one starting quarterback shade a little bit earlier, but yeah.
And just one other comment I'll throw out there. We have been referring, Squibb and I behind the scenes have been referring to our division as the division of death. I do believe it is a good division, but it is not because of team run CMC or run MCM, whatever we want to call it.
So is that his new name? Is run MCMC?
Yeah, that's why I'm going to call him MCM. That is legit. You go back to the draft. He says, I hear MCM is still on the board.
Well, also not being able to put in the pick himself.
You guys clearly did though. Like you came in. Is that both of you that was pretty much in agreement with like we're gonna have a super young team? Like, is that just? I know there are fantasy football guys that don't like veterans generally. Just talking about a redraft, like don't like veterans. They break down. Give me the young fresh toy because in football, those guys coming right out of college do make an immediate impact. So is that both of you guys are both like, give us the young guys, plus it's dynasty, so that's even more a part of it? Or was one of you guys like, I like the veteran so-and-so, but you kind of settled? I mean, you have a pretty young team.
Yeah, I mean, that we were both kind of in agreement on that. Our first draft pick, who was over 26 years old, was Tevin Coleman in the 17th round, which I mean, not to spoil anything right now, he's not in the long-term plans of Team St. Marie _Josh right now. But yeah, we kind of just were in agreement. We liked a lot of the same guys and thought that by people taking some of those older guys that don't provide as much long-term value, that we're going to find a little bit more value with some of the younger guys.
And I'll add to that. I'll transition us here a little bit into some of our specific picks, but actually, I'll start with this. I'll ask you guys a question. Like, at what point in the draft, or how many rounds would you say builds sort of like the foundational core of a team? Like, what's your philosophy? It's going to be differing from every manager, but I'm just curious. Like, how many picks?
I think, for a super flex, I might expand like one round or so, but like typically I think it's really the first 4 or 5 is like your real core, and then the rest is just filling in the gaps. But maybe for a super flex you go to 5 or 6 instead of 4 or 5, but that's my personal opinion.
So for me in this draft, I went quarterbacks way earlier than I would have, just because of the super flex format. Granted, there's only 2 knees between the 4 knees of the quarterbacks I have, the first 2. But I try to get the quarterback base. I'd say my base is around 8 or 9, just because I am a big handcuff believer. And I'm going to ask you guys this later to break down Allen and I's team from a different perspective, if we got a few minutes. So for me, it's 8 or 9 rounds. Now, continue with where you want to go with that.
Yeah, so I tend to be, and I speaking on behalf of me and Squibb here, I tend to be more in the camp that Allen's in. I think after about the first 4 or so picks is when you can start really going for your guys. You kind of need to build a solid base in those first 4 rounds. You can't really win your draft, but you can lose your draft. You hear that said all the time. So those first 4 picks, I just want to highlight our first 4 picks. And when we went Kyler Murray, Justin Jefferson, Najee Harris, Terry McLaurin. If you look at the ADP of those picks, and it's hard to find ADP in Superflex, but all 4 of those picks were made around their ADP. It also so happens that those are 4 very young players. I think McLaurin is the oldest there, and I think is he 20?
His third year.
His third year in the NFL.
He's not that old.
Not that old. And so when we're getting like 20, I don't know any of their ages, but they're in between like 22 to 26. And when we're getting those age people at their standard ADP in a dynasty draft, when we get that core, it kind of dictates for us the rest of the draft. We're going to really focus on this young talent because I feel like we have those 4 allow us to compete very strongly now and are huge building blocks, all 4 of them for the future.
Agree 100%.
Yeah, and I know there was a lot of like sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No,
go ahead, please.
What you guys and Harry were kind of breaking down the draft around Justin Jefferson. Specifically, I've heard some people say that was like good value. Some people say that was kind of a reach. He was our number 1 receiver overall for Dynasty, and the fact that we were able to get him in the very late of the second round, we were kind of stunned at that.
I would hope, and I don't know how good my memory is because I'm scrolling through the document right now, but I love Justin Jefferson. Love him. Now, I don't know what grade I gave you because I'm going through it right now because I want to be accurate. I think I gave you guys.
To be fair to Tony, he did say we're second best in the division. So Tony did like our team. But I believe that Tony was a part of the Jefferson slander in your guys' 4-hour podcast. I listened to it today in preparation, and I was like, oh my, I have to scroll through all of this to figure out where exactly.
I know I need to start doing some time markers or something.
So how many times did you hear Noah Fant?
A lot. I have to say, Tony, that is quite the take. Quite the take. He said, and I quote, a distant first is Noah Fant.
Yes.
And I mean,
yes.
Okay. The second person who's distant behind Fant is an incredible tight end. So
yes,
right. Is on the Hall of Fame pace.
I'm also taking into account where you guys go with your team, and I'll let you keep going with this and expand upon it.
I wanted to ask something.
He's young.
You take Fant. Who's going to finish first?
You want a pizza? No, next 3.
You take Fant.
Not this year. Not this year. I'm talking dynasty. Like you guys are looking.
I'll go 2 years on that.
3.
We're all going to be around, right? Yeah.
3.
There might be something there we can work out later.
Pizzas might not be able to be bought in 3 years. Like, who the hell knows? Like, we might all be forced to eat Soylent Green 3 years from now. Like, who the hell knows? But I wanted to ask something, like, while I'm still thinking about it. Do you guys remember who it was that you thought you were going to be, like, forced to take if Jefferson wasn't there and you weren't able to land, like, somebody that you were so excited about? Who was it that you were looking at instead?
We're both big Ridley guys. We both were very high on him last year when he broke out. We both had him on a few of our different teams. So it probably would fall in between him and A.J. Brown, which I think were 2 of the next 3 receivers off the board. So,
yes, Squibb and I were reflecting. We were reflecting literally today just on we did get pretty lucky, we feel, with how that turn went. If you look at a lot of those guys that were going around there, those are a lot of the big names that are being injured right now, and so we were entertaining a lot of those guys. Now, Jefferson obviously at the top of that list, and Najee Harris also actually very high. We gave some serious thought, I remember, to drafting him with that second pick, so much so that when he got to the 3rd, we were like, okay, definitely Najee. But like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh yeah, we didn't want AJ Brown because we knew he was injury prone. I'm very high on AJ Brown. We had some talks when we were prepping for this. If for me, I was thinking maybe even he should be the number 1 receiver for Dynasty.
So no thought to going quarterback though. Since you went Kyler in the 1st, there was no thought of going QB.
No, not at all. And we talked a bunch about like before the draft even started about, like, because we had the 4th pick of all of the draft spots for the KDS picking order, and we kind of said we want to get one. We need to get 1 quarterback in the first 2 rounds, and we weren't sure kind of what kind of quarterbacks we'd be looking at, which is kind of how we decided against CMC. If we went CMC there, that we'd kind of be looking at murky waters for our team's first quarterback for the foreseeable future, and especially since that's such a position with such long-term value, and you're not seeing them flame out after 29 like running backs do.
Right.
We kind of knew we wanted to get 1, and then, I mean, once Jefferson was there, like I said, he was our number 1 receiver. Obviously, there were other guys that we looked at up there, but once he kind of fell to us there, it was a no-brainer.
So I got to ask, because you did draft Najee Harris. My wife is a diehard Steelers fan. She hates you two. I'm just going to be blunt. She hates the Patriots. She hates the Patriots. You're a Patriots fan. I'm just not you two personally. I'm sorry. You two is
confused for a second.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I should have clarified. No.
I thought I misheard you for sure. I'm like, you didn't say that she hates us.
No. I apologize for the misspeak. The misspeak was she is a diehard Steelers fan, and she absolutely hates the Patriots. Absolutely hates anything to do with
everybody hates the Patriots these days.
I would question fandom if she
Now, either one of you can answer this, or both. Like, does that hate run both ways?
So it's interesting. One of our best friends from school is also a very big Steelers fan. Kind of growing up, they were always one of like the teams that like I would root against Peyton Manning, whatever team he was on, and the Steelers. Kind of just because they were really our only competition in the AFC for like 20 years. But I see you got a Bears shirt on, so I figured I could say that as a. Oh well,
Alan is a Chiefs fan.
Okay, well, obviously that's very different now than when I was growing up. Obviously, the Chiefs are the cream of the crop in the AFC. That goes without saying. But yeah, I kind of always had a distaste for the Steelers. I suppressed that for a little bit for our freshman, sophomore year of college, knowing that our roommate Kime was a big Steelers fan, and that was kind of when they weren't doing so hot for the first few years of college. Then last year, once they went on that 11-0 streak, and they clearly had flaws all across the board, then I kind of came out of the bushes in that meme with Homer Simpson, where he kind of goes back and then steps back out with the anti-Steelers stuff, waiting for everyone against the Steelers. Once that they were back to a decent level. Josh and I actually both were at the AFC Championship game in 2017, back when they beat the Steelers to go to the Super Bowl, and that was, I think, the Falcons Super Bowl.
It sounds about right. Yeah.
I think it was that one.
Yeah.
We went to.
You guys have had so many Super Bowls. It's hard to remember. It's hard to remember which Super Bowl that was.
Oh, shoot. All I've got is 85, and that's about it. So.
Well, and I grew up as a Chiefs fan in the 90s, where the Chiefs like got bounced in the first round of the playoffs every fucking year of the 90s. I think they maybe made the AFC Championship once, maybe in the mid to later 90s. But yeah, first round exit was like the thing for the Chiefs in the 90s.
So quick question then for me. One for Alan and then similar one for Tony. And just real quick, I want to know how painful it was for Alan specifically, the offsides against the Patriots. And then Alan, I don't know how you feel about it, but the double doink. Or sorry, Tony, the double doink.
So personal, like my wife can hear me right now and she might run down and divorce me. But I've always said the Patriots are my second favorite team.
Oh.
Like
great choice.
Person I've ever
and I get the double middle finger from the corner right now. I'm just like they took on a lot of the Ferentzes. Like I'm a big Iowa fan, and you guys had Brian Ferentz on the staff, and I think you drafted him. And like there's a lot of connections between Kirk Ferentz and Belichick, dating back to the Browns days. So they were my AFC team for a while. But go ahead and continue with yours.
Really, what I'm hearing, Tony, is that the double doink was so painful that you just didn't even hear that in my question at all.
Nope, I blocked it out. Blocked it out.
Yep.
Yeah, blocked it out.
Okay, so then Alan, how about the offside?
Yeah, like that was D Ford, right?
Yep. Yes.
Yeah. So like I wanted him. I like D Ford, I wanted him back and everything, and I've like seen the videos and stuff. Like, would the Chiefs have won without D Ford doing? And the answer is probably yes. Like the way that game was going, the answer is almost assuredly yes.
And it was like there were 2 minutes left. Yeah, they would have won.
Yeah. In retrospect, it's like for me, kind of like with Josh. Like I'm such a bigger baseball fan. Like it was really cool to see the Chiefs win, but now that I've seen it, like I really couldn't care less if I ever see him win again, honestly. And I almost kind of felt the same way after the Cardinals won their first World Series. It was like you're never going to get that first time they win, as a fan, that first time they win, it's never going to be the same. Now you guys especially are very much right. Yeah, you guys have been in an era of like unprecedented dominance of a football team. And I don't necessarily dislike the Patriots, but you have to admit that they have a lot of, like, Spygate was the Patriots. Inflategate was the Patriots. Plowing the field before a field goal was the Patriots. The tuck rule was the Patriots. Like, it's all this weird shit that happens to involve the Robert Kraft Patriots. Like, before he got there, the Patriots were
things that you.
I'm just saying, it's a lot. It's a lot of weird shit that involves the same team.
Spygate, the Cowboys were doing it too.
Right. No, yeah, I don't disagree. I don't disagree. But it's just kind of like that's the narrative that's been sown with like the anti-Patriots is like, look at all these weird incidences that all only involved the Patriots. But like other teams were filming practice, other teams were doing that shit.
Squibb's willing to gab it up here, but I'll plead the fifth on that one. I mean, whatever results.
If
results.
More relevant than. Maybe they would have been under a little bit more of a watchful eye from the league office. And then I'll leave it at that.
See, that's why people hate Patriots fans, because of that kind of arrogance.
It's been that way for so long, we have to just embrace it.
Yeah. What are you going to do? You have to now. Like you're like the Yankees were in the early 2000s. Like everybody hated the Yankees because they were good, Yeah. Like you get to a point where you just got to love to be hated.
I had to mute the mic for a little bit because my wife had a lot of curse words she wanted to say about the Patriots. So I just wanted to make sure that and her being a Steelers fan, so that's probably
we got their boy, so we appease her. We got Najee, but I want to, I see the clock ticking up there. It's about at 40 minutes already. So and there's just a few more picks that I want to talk about. Trey Lance and Cam Akers specifically. I think specifically the Akers pick has gotten a ton of flack. But just one other
Sam
pick I
not
want
like the Akers pick.
No, he said he'd take him in the 17th round. Obviously, he wouldn't have been in the 17th.
That's
round.
Never, ever going to happen in any league.
Yeah.
But all I'll say is okay, we got Cam Akers, but I want to talk about Damian Harris just real quick. This is going to be some Patriots homerism, so take this for what you will. But in my mind, when it comes to pure running of the football, I think of Nick Chubb, Alvin Kamara, and Aaron Jones as the top three in the league. CMC maybe fourth we're just talking pure running, and I genuinely believe Damian Harris is the next best pure runner of the football. This guy averaged 5 yards of carry last season against not the best. Well, the O-line was decent, but not the best in the world. Stacked boxes galore, still 5 yards of carry. I mean, Cam can't throw the ball, so they're stacking the boxes, and he's breaking tackles left and right. Led the league, I think, from the time he started in broken tackles. He's a ridiculous talent. They just don't use him in the passing game. It's why his ADP is so suppressed. And also, of course, the Patriots. You never know if they're going to go bell cow or not. So, I just want to throw that out there. Damian Harris is a huge pick that we have that we'll be able to plug in there if our running backs, when we risk it with Cam Akers, if that's really such a bad pick, I think we'll have some nice fill-ins there.
Yeah, and there's definitely obviously some homerism there as both Patriots
just a tad.
fans, but also statistically that there is some truth that backs that up. He was a top 5 running back last year according to PFF, and I know some people have their own takes about PFF as a whole and whether or not they're actually good at rating players and not. But there are some statistics that actually back that up. But yeah, we definitely like that pick. And even if you say we reached for Akers a little bit early, we were considering Damian Harris there at 6'10", and he fell to us 2 whole rounds later. So even when I start thinking, maybe we shouldn't have taken him quite so high, we kind of all 3 of those guys, 6, 7, and 8, those running backs, we all viewed them in a similar light and would have taken any of them at any of those picks. Because I'll take responsibility. I was the one who was more pushing for the Akers pick. He's right around the Fantasy Pros rankings, the consensus rankings among all the experts. So I don't know what Harry was talking about with his 17th round, but it might have been a little bit early. We are obviously banking on him bouncing back from that injury, but we possibly have a running back 1 coming into the season next year, which probably the best offseason acquisition that any team can get. Obviously, there's a lot of risk caked in, like we talked about, but we thought that was a really decent spot where we were getting good value.
Yeah, and I
think Damian Harris.
I just wanted to say
on. Oh.
Sorry, go ahead. No, finish your
Yeah, there's
finish your
slight lag that keeps fucking. So I wanted to say, I was not on Damian Harris until I saw, I think it was Josh talking about him on the Discord. I had no shares, and now when I go to my RT Sports, I'm up to having Damian Harris in 8% of my leagues, which means I've probably taken him in probably the last 4 that I've drafted.
Okay.
Which stacks up about right. So yeah, I was really not on him at all, and that's mostly a anti Patriot running back thing, because like you said, you never know if they're going to bell cow or it's going to be the weird year that LeGarrette Blount has 18 touchdowns or whatever the fuck, or it's James White just getting the dump tosses all the time and he's a PPR beast. So I tend to stay away from Pat's running backs, but seeing somebody super high on him that's not – I really only listen to the CBS guys' football podcast, and they are generally not super high on Harris. So I didn't really look into him much. But the more I did, the more it looked like he was a value where he was going, relative to all the other running backs especially. And now I've got him on a few teams.
Well, all I heard there was that you have 50 teams. 50. If you have 4 shares of Damon Harris, 8%. That's 50 teams.
It's a lot.
Let's talk about that. What?
Yeah, that includes a big chunk of best ball as well. Yeah. So, but yeah, in best ball, I did a lot of best ball pretty early. So that was definitely times where I was not looking at him at all.
I was going to ask because they mentioned the clock. Can we go 1:15 on this, or we got to go flat?
Yeah, that's fine. I hit Mark up, and he said the kids were still goofing off, so he would not be disappointed if we ran late.
So what I was going to say is let's do 1:15 on this, so another half hour. I want to give you guys 10 more minutes to discuss your team, if that's possible. Like, I'm sure you got more you want to go over. And then if you could throw, about 7 or 8 more minutes each on Alan and I's team, because we haven't got, some different perspective from either one of you.
Well, let's go 15 more total. Let's try 15, 20 more total.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. So I think 5 minutes for each of those. So
I think one of the other reasons, and I know, I believe Tony, you actually gave our QBs an A+, and then there was actually just a slight amount of pushback. It really wasn't that bad that maybe it shouldn't be an A+ just because we don't have a second starter right now. But what I will say is Trey Lance, absolutely, I firmly believe I'd put a decent chunk of money on. He will be starting by season's end. I think the fact that they're already entered. Yeah, I think that's true. I think Mac Jones could even be starting. We're seeing rumors as soon as week 1 now with the Squibb was telling me about the Cam Newton fiasco. But going back to Trey Lance real quick, who we talked about building that base of those first 4 picks and then kind of getting our guys. When we get someone like Trey Lance, he's kind of like your prototypical superstar fantasy QB, not necessarily real life, just with the athleticism he brings to the table, the willingness he has to run the football. But on top of that, once he is starting, if you take a look at his playoff schedule, it really could not be. So what would be our playoff schedule is the second to last week of the season, third to last, fourth to last, fifth to last. He just has like an absolutely dream schedule. And I know it's a little dangerous to look this far in advance and say that, but I mean, one of the teams he's playing is the Texans, which might be the worst team we've seen in 5+ years. And so I really think like that QB, once we have him locked and starting and we're able to pair him with Murray, I really don't think we have a single gap on this team. And at that point, I think it will be a laughable proposition to say that at one point we were considered the last place team in the league. I think the upside with Lance is just tremendous. And I think even if you don't say it's that high, the floor of the easy schedule is even better.
So can I throw in, I'm from Grand Forks, North Dakota, which is home of the University of North Dakota. Not North Dakota State, University of North Dakota. I get sick of hearing about the Bison. Oh, my God, they're the greatest thing ever. So that's probably my personal bias thrown in there.
You still gave us an A+, yes, to be fair.
Oh, I did. That proves I can be unbiased,
especially for
absolutely
dynasty. Like, you're so well set up for dynasty. Like that. Yes. Like I don't remember who it was. Some big fantasy head tweeted either today or yesterday that like I feel like people take the dynasty and dynasty startup a little too seriously. Like he thinks that they're drafting youth with too much emphasis on youth or whatever. But like I think you guys did it the right way in taking young players that are guaranteed to be studs now, and then also mixing in guys that one, you believe both very well may be starting by the end of the season, but at like the very least are set up to be the guys on their teams. Like obviously Mac Jones is going to be the guy in New England, right? Like that's a foregone conclusion. And like we said, with another COVID thing with Cam or whatever the hell it is that he's dealing with, maybe they're getting sick of him. Maybe they're getting fed up. Maybe he does start super early.
That's kind of what the reports have been saying. Because I would have said before that there's 0% chance he's starting week 1, but I think that there's now some internal rumblings. Obviously, I'm not a part of the
greater than 0,
but I think it's a little bit. There's a chance, and they're both having pretty good preseasons, at least even if they don't start for most of the year. For where next year we'll be in really great shape.
And just to add, go ahead, Squibb.
We definitely focused on a lot of younger players, especially with the top half of the draft, getting some of those high upside rookies. But we also took some guys later that are certainly not. They're not the sexy pick, taking Tevin Coleman, John Brown, but I mean Tevin Coleman as a starting running back in the 17th round. John Brown was an unexciting, but he was a wide receiver 3 last year, and now he's going to be the guy for the Raiders. So we took some of those kind of safe floor guys that we'd be comfortable throwing in for a bye week fill in a flex spot. Took some of those kind of safe floor guys to give some time for those rookies because they have a lot of talent. A lot of high draft capital was invested in them by both us and the NFL team, but they are rookies. It does take some time. So we made sure we could get some veterans who were falling once people started taking their minor picks to be able to plug in any holes that
those two guys specifically, John Brown and Tevin Coleman, are guys we know we can use as fill-ins early should our rookies and young players be slow out the gate because they have those jobs right now, and neither of us believe they're going to be a long-term thing in those offenses. Obviously, Tevin Coleman, well, if things are going well for the Jets, he should be replaced rather quickly in that offense, but we do believe he's starting right away. So those type of picks, I think, provide us more floor than maybe you would think when you're seeing all these young guys. And I just want to circle back real quick, though, to Mac Jones. That we're talking about a guy who all the draft analysts were saying was the most NFL ready of the QBs in that class. Maybe not the most upside, but at this moment, the most NFL ready. He goes to, obviously, a team we love, so there's going to be some bias there, but a team that does not have a good quarterback. And I don't care what you think of Cam, he is not a good quarterback. He maybe plays the position well, but the position of quarterback, which requires you to throw the ball, there really is not a worse QB in the league right now. The way he throws the ball, the results.
Taysom Hill? Taysom Hill?
Okay, fair enough. Anyways, going off that, so we think Mac Jones, they're going to plug him in sooner rather than later, even as a rookie. And so you can really see we're betting on that when we pick someone like Damian Harris, because once Mac Jones, someone who can throw the ball, that opens up the run game, less stacked boxes. We're betting on Johnny Smith. He's going to throw the ball. We've got Kendrick Bourne later. So that's really you're seeing some correlated bets too, that if Mac Jones does start and is successful, like we see, that is a huge boom, not just because Mac Jones is going to be able to plug into our team, but that's arrows up for Damian Harris. That's arrows up for Johnny Smith, etc. So I think the way we set up our team, it's better than a last place team. I'm not going to say it's the best team in the league, especially not to compete right now, but I think I love it as a dynasty team. And even to compete now, I feel like we're set up pretty well.
Well,
now there's two picks I wanted to... go ahead.
Well, yeah, I just don't want to lose this. For the dynasty aspect, we haven't even really talked that we talked about Akers a little bit, but you have two players. Both may very well not take a single snap this year, but that if their circumstances were normal in this format, could have both been first and second round players. Like Watson would have easily went in the first or second round had everything been, kosher with him. And obviously Akers is in a lot of leagues, a first round running back if he's not hurt. So you have everything that we've talked about, and then not even mentioning Deshaun Watson, who can easily be a top 5 quarterback when everything is right. You do have him sitting there, and you do have the injured but still quite valuable Cam Akers. So I quite like your guys' team, especially for the future. But
that's what Watson has been. He's been a top 5 fantasy quarterback. I mean, I'm a big fan of Josh Herbert, and not to start bad-mouthing Tony's team, but I think he probably slots in right around that 5-6 quarterback off the board. And we talked about him for rounds 10, 11, 12, 13 Obviously, it's a little bit.
I was secretly targeting him. That was one pick that hurt my heart. The Watson pick. Those were three of the. That was one of the 3 late round picks that you guys made that I wanted to talk about. You had Deshaun Watson there. He was a target of mine in this league. You guys took him. That's fine. The 2 others were Rashad Bateman and Darnell Mooney. I think both those guys are going to be stars. Yep, they're both going to be. I don't think people realize that Bateman is going to be the number one in Baltimore.
He's hurt.
That's
right
my
now.
personal opinion.
He's
hurt. I heard something today that he's going to be back before season starts. Like really? His recovery.
I heard mid-October was the timetable on him. So that's
I heard something today that he's
quite a bit different.
Yeah,
quite a bit different. That would be much better.
Bateman is also a guy we're betting on for the future. So if it is a longer term, not the biggest deal. But I think you're right, Tony. I think like the Baltimore does not have a clear number. Their number one in that offense right now is a tight end. And that's never fun. And so I think that they go to a guy like Bateman. He fits the offense well in terms of his explosiveness, but also just like just to be the guy, the number one in that offense. So I think you're right there. So that's a little bit of us. You'll see this as strategy. Maybe we can use this to transition to a little bit. But we're also some of the quarterbacks we're missing out on. We're betting that Lamar Jackson has a bit of a rebound. That correlates to Bateman, that type of thing. But where I wanted to go with that is I believe, Alan, I think, did you end up taking Tua?
I did not.
Was it me? Yeah, not me.
Oh, never mind. Okay, I thought one of you took Tua. But I was gonna say like I'm a firm believer in Tua. Squibb doesn't like him quite as much. But if Tua does bounce back, that means he's gonna have to be more comfortable. And what's more comfortable than him having his old college buddy back, Jalen Waddle. So like another bet, like if Tua is successful, the only way that happens is if Jalen Waddle's successful. So like you're going to see a lot of that as far as our picks go. So I mean, it may seem like when we pull the trigger on someone like Akers that they're just like drafting names they recognize, but there was a lot more thought that went into all of these picks. And I could go on forever about every single one of our picks.
Yeah, I just want to touch on Darnell Mooney a little bit too.
Okay.
Because he was quite possibly my favorite sleeper.
I think he's from this team.
He is from that team, and he's someone not many people recognize unless they watch a lot of Bears games, because he was wicked good making separation, things like that. It was just the ball was not going to him, so he was getting like 40 catches. But his trajectory.
Quarterback's a little better this year.
A little bit, at least maybe week 2, because week 1.
Week one. He's the starter. He's the starter week 1. But go ahead.
But yeah, I think the long-term trajectory for Mooney's the sky's there's no limit to what his ceiling can be, especially long-term. Once Allen Robinson's gone off of his franchise tag, I feel like he's a pending free agent like every single year for the past like 4 years. But yeah, definitely a lot of talent there. But it just doesn't really show up in the box score. So definitely really love that pick.
Alan, can we give them like a couple minutes for each of our teams if they want to go over? Because it sounds like they wanted to. I mean, if that's fine with you guys, did you have anything else to say about Alan and I's teams?
I would have to see them again, but
honestly, I don't care what they have to say about my team. not to sound mean, but it's like we talked for 4 hours about our own teams or whatever. We can just do me and you if we want.
Oh, that's fine. Nope, that's fine.
Like, I'm interested in what they have to say, but yeah, I probably do gotta wrap up to be able to get into some good mark action. So,
anything you guys want to do to close up?
I just want to say I appreciate you guys letting us come on here and talk about our own team and brag about our own picks for an hour. That's not fun for anyone except probably us. So I just appreciate you giving us the chance to do that. Hopefully, maybe next time the power rankings come out, there'll be a less whatever funky business is going on there factored in. But even so, we look forward to proving the power rankings wrong, and we look forward to a fun fantasy league with lots of more slander for guys such as Sam. I'm coming for you. You're in my division. I'm coming for you, Sam.
Can I say something real quick before Squibb says something? So, Josh, this means you guys want to be the Marlins of the football team, the football league.
I do not know what you mean. If you're saying like by the end of the year,
you joined mid-season. I'm sorry. The Marlins were trashed. That was my team in the ABL. Absolutely trashed. Like worst team in the ABL. Not going to do anything. And now you've seen the success the Marlins have. So you want to replicate the success that one Marlins have had in the baseball league people are trashing you.
It's only
and
Sam. It's only Sam that thinks they're going to be that bad. I mean, it's only Sam.
The simple
motivational stuff.
The simple answer to your question, of course, is yes. Of course, I would like to outperform this trashing of our team. But what I will say, what we have going against us, that the ABL Marlins did not, is we are not in the biggest cupcake division of all time. So,
he's not wrong. I mean, come on.
That hurts right here. That hurts.
Hey, I mean, that's what the Patriots did for 15 years.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
As long as you can get to the potential playoffs. I don't know exactly how the ABL works. I've heard a little bit about it, but as long as you get there and you prove yourself there, then it doesn't matter if you're in a cupcake division.
Yeah, who cares?
Life a little easier, exactly. And you were talking about how it's just Sam who doesn't like our team. Yeah, you just need a little bit of bulletin board material. That's what Bill Belichick has been doing to beat the Steelers like every single year. Once Antonio Brown goes live in the locker room when Tomlin's like crashing them, you got to take whatever you can and just slap it right up on the bulletin board and just use it as motivation. Which
exactly, we already got Mark Cleveland. Mark, I don't remember his last initial. Sorry, but football Mark here. With all this like NFL knowledge and experience in these fantasy leagues, we already got a target on his back. We're already coming for him. We have Jeff over here who has arguably the best win now team. So we're already coming for him. And so Sam, you made a mistake, boy. We had no reason to come for you. And now we're coming for you.
Yes.
The dog
we wrote that in
action.
the schedule as bye week.
This is what we wanted, right, Alan?
Yeah. I like somebody healing up. I mean, it's not even healing up; they're just defending themselves, but they're healing up a little bit. Yeah.
Let the record show we did not start this. This is all retaliatory.
So this has been known between Alan and I want to ask you guys. Between Mark and I, it's going to go to this next podcast. It's been known that I'm the Shawn Michaels, and Mark is the Bret Hart. If you had to choose, both of you answer separately. Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart?
These guys are like 20 years old.
I was going to say that. I'm born in 97. I have no idea what you're saying.
Oh!
I know they're both wrestlers, but that's about it.
Yeah, these guys were born. Like when we were talking about Attitude Era, these guys were born when we were big.
Oh God, I forget how young they are. Yeah, but to throw to the Mark thing, I have a Sam Adams. Oh God, that's bad. Jacko. Oh God, Jacko Pumpkin Ale. Mark is very adamant about pumpkin stuff. So now when Alan, once he joins, I'm going to a Sam Adams Jacko Pumpkin Ale.
I was wondering why you were so excited about Starbucks adding the white girl drink in Canada.
But I hate it. I hate it. Yeah, he loves the pumpkin. I hate it.
That's the Blue Jays.
He loves
it's not the Mark that's in the football, but the Blue Jays of the.
Sorry, Blue Jays.
Yeah, not the. Yeah, Blue Jays.
We have three. We have Royals Mark, we have Cleveland Mark, and we have Blue Jays Mark.
Thanks, guys, for your time and everything.
Absolutely.
Squibb,
this was a lot of fun.
And we'll have you on. Like we'll try to get you on later on in the year too. Squibb, I know you're not a baseball guy, but Mark's an entertaining guy.
In terms of like the like deep fantasy, I'm getting more into like kind of baseball prospects, especially with the Red Sox actually having a farm system with names that are actually
get
worth
Josh started on that.
But yeah, I mean, I follow it. I know like a decent amount. It's just the nitty gritty, not nearly as at the same level.
Squibb absolutely has the knowledge to talk ABO, baseball, prospects, all that. It just doesn't have the experience of the fantasy league. But really, I mean, not all of us. No one really has the experience in a 30-team league. So, but Squibb absolutely knows the stuff. So, but yeah, just thank you for having us. It was a lot of fun. We'll come back next time. Not brag about our own team so much. Throw some more shade, perhaps.
Oh, brag. And if you have no life,
and then brag, yeah.
If you have no life like I do, I'm going to stick around for this podcast. And Mark's an interesting character. Like, take a listen, and it's on the same channel. And if you get bored, that's fine. If not, enjoy. We want to get these. We want to get our monetized. So, Josh, when you're on these podcasts, throw some shout outs.
I don't quite have the clout there yet.
Yeah,
but
how
next
does that
time
work,
I
Josh?
told
when you're on one of these big ones, do you just open it up and the money comes out of the computer? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, pretty much. It's you have to keep yourself muted because as you're doing it, it's just is like printing out of your computer. It's so loud. So nope. But next time I told Duke next time I'm not going to call it a dynasty league. I'm going to say the ABL with the best commissioner.
For sure, 100%. 100%.
Awesome.
Thank you both.
Thanks, Squibb. Thanks, Josh. We'll catch you guys later.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, anybody, for watching.